there, Simon from simonwoods.com here, and I've got 4 aromatic whites. Hopefully they're going to be aromatic. I've got 3 Rieslings, 1 from the States, 2 from Germany, but I'm starting off with a Torrontes. And Torrontes is a grape that, it probably hails originally from Spain. In Spain, you go to Spain and there's quite a few things that they call Torrontes, but no one's quite sure whether they're related. There's the Madeira Torrontes, and then you go over to Argentina and there's Torrontes, and it might be the same as some of them and it might not be. But the bulk of the really good Torrontes comes from, most of Argentina's wines come from a province called Mendoza, but 2 provinces above there, is it 2 or 3? San Juan, San Rafael, 3, Salta. So you get to Salta, and there's a place there called Cafajate, and you'd think it's closer to the equator, it should be hot, too hot for an aromatic grape variety, but the vineyards are actually quite a bit higher than those in Mendoza, and Torrontes works pretty well there. I still think there are better Torronteses to be made than are being made at the moment. You look at the size of some of the bunches of Torrontes and you think no one's going to make a decent wine out of that. A good wine, but not a great wine. Let's see whether this is good or great. It's from a bodega called Au Fournier, and it sounds like Irish. No, bodega's O. Fournier, run by a very passionate Spaniard called Jose Manuel Ortega. Who's got a winery. Yes, he made his money in merchant banking, bought the winery in Argentina, then one back in Spain, Ribera del Duero, and he's now working in Chile as well. So this is Urban Uco 2009 from Cafajate. It's typical Torrontes. It reminds me of a slight bit of hand cream. It's like muscat mixed with Gewürztraminer. It's got this slightly citrus grapey edge, but then it's got these floral aromatic things. So things like Turkish Delight, Pond's hand cream, maybe a bit of lychees in there. Not hugely concentrated, but nice, fresh, zippy stuff. Perfect, what I call cricket match wine. And maybe that's what Torrontes is supposed to do. Don't try and be too clever with it. Just be content with it making good, friendly summer day quaffs. I say summer day, it was snowing here before, even though it's the end of March. Okay, now we are in Washington State for the Snoqualmie Naked Riesling from the Columbia Valley. 2008 vintage. Now, I tried a couple of wines, actually 3 wines from Snoqualmie in a few other videos recently, and there was a Merlot, a Cabernet and a Chardonnay, and they didn't do it for me, but let's see how the Riesling fares. Well, first of all, I'm pretty sure just by smelling it I'm going to prefer it. It's got a freshness of fruit that the Chardonnay lacked. It feels like it's going to be quite rounded and rich, but it's just 12% alcohol, so it's not going to whop you around the head and try and assault you. If it is 12% alcohol, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of residual sugar there, so I'm expecting something off dry but with this nice citrus, maybe a slightly peachy edge. And that's just what it is. Not hugely complex. It's got this, what I call the sweet and sour edges, so the slight tartness of Riesling, but also if you've left an apple in the sun and it's gone brown, it's got that edge of brown apple, which is really quite nice actually. Probably a bit too warm in here at the moment. I've got some big lights on to try and show up my lovely complexion, but it's not succeeding probably, and it's warmed this wine up just a little bit too much. But half an hour more in the fridge and that'd be pretty tasty. Not great, again, but tasty. Now we're on to Germany, and I've got 2 wines, what are called cabinet wines. If you know your German wine categorisation, what they do is it's very complicated, but they have this scale of what they call the Pradikat scale, and basically it's based on the sugar levels in the grapes when you pick them. The idea being that the better the site, the better the vintage, then the riper the grapes will get. And so it goes Cabinet, Spätlese, Auslese, Trockenbeeren Auslese, no, Auslese, beer and Auslese, Trockenbeer and Auslese, and then ice wine. Ice wine's a bit of an odd one. And if you want to know a mnemonic, I think, what is it? Kebab shops are bad to enter, something like that. Anyway, so I've got two cabinets here. First one is from the Mosel, which is one of the cooler bits. 8.5% alcohol. The Erdner is the village. Trepken, the vineyard. Riesling cabinet from the producers Merlenhof. And it's a very different type of Riesling from this. It feels like it's going to be a lot lighter and more delicate in body, but also more complex and fresher. It feels like it's going to have a bit more acidity. Yes, it's probably got quite a bit of sugar, because 8.5% alcohol, there's probably, if they'd fermented it out to dryness, they could probably have got it to 11% alcohol. But if they had done that, then I think you would have noticed that acidity just a bit too much. Having that sugar in there, well, it's like Mary Poppins. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine and all that. Oh, lovely, lively, quince, citrus, this mineral edge, and it feels like, I don't know if there's a touch of slate in the soil, but it has that slight feel of wet roof tiles. If you've got slate roofs and you get close to them and smell them, it's got a bit of that character to them. And also it's got this freshness. I didn't find too much of that lovely backbone of acidity in the Snoqualmie that I find here. For some people, they actually prefer the Snoqualmie for that reason. If you're not a big fan of wines that have got quite a bit of acidity, then you might veer towards that. But I like that racy edge here that, yeah, keeps it keen. Yeah, long, fresh, pure, delicate, like dances around your mouth. And it also feels like it's got potential to go on. I wouldn't be sure about keeping the Snoqualmie, but this feels like a wine that you would be rewarded if you wanted to keep it for yeah, a good few years. It's probably got 10 years life ahead of it. Let's see whether this final cabinet has. This is from the Rheingau. So it's a warmer region, and in the Rheingau you can actually make your Riesling dry, and it's got the body to stand up to it. Lower acidity, higher alcohol, and overall better balance made as a dry wine. This one's not going to be a dry wine, 8.5% alcohol, so I'm anticipating it's going to be a touch sweeter than the Merlenhof, because the grapes would have had more sugar in there in the first place. And it's from Johannes Leitz, and it's his Rudesheimer cabinet. That's one of the things that people are doing now. This doesn't have the name of a vineyard, it just says the name of the village. It's from the village of Rudesheim. For their top vineyards, they'll put the name of the vineyard on, but for like a wine like this, which is, well, I suppose halfway up their portfolio, they'll just use the village name, Rudesheim. Well, it feels like it's going to be a richer but still tangy wine. It's more on that peach, more exotic tropical fruits, and certainly there's some citrus there. But it's more orange here than maybe the lime and lemon on the Merlenhof. Yeah, it's quite a bit richer, but still behind it all, it's got this backbone, keeping it fresh, keeping it in balance. And it's more, yeah, the fruit there, it's like crystallised oranges with a bit of the fresh orange as well, peaches, pineapples, and touch of mineral. I noticed the mineral edge probably more on the Merlenhof. It may be that maybe the fruit's just that little bit too exuberant here at the moment, and with a bit more time the mineral edge will assert itself more, but yeah. I think I marginally prefer the Merlenhof on this showing. The Lights feels, I'd love to sit there and watch, yeah, again, cricket match wine with both of them. But whereas the Merlenhof, I just want to have like that by itself. The Lights has got that extra bit of body, so I wouldn't be too embarrassed about shoving that in. Because it's got that sweetness, it will go really nicely with some quite spicy food. There's a nice mixture of the acid and sugar in the food, and acid and sugar in the wine as well. And the two, with some spicy food, they play off against each other very well.